Hello everyone! Welcome back to the channel. Thanks again so much for tuning in. I'm Simmer Chase. Today is episode 9 of our speed builds. Today's an exciting one. You know why? I thought of something different. So what I'm actually doing now is I'm going back in history to some of the iconic builds and ideas that we've all kind of had through the years, but kind of early on, and going back and updating them to make them more modern. So case in point is the royalty wedding venue. So this was made years ago, kind of by somebody else, and then I modified it. And then 4 years later, 5 years later, it just hasn't aged well. With the graphics changes and a lot of other things, it looked very dated to me, and it looked kind of creepy in a way too, because with all the red made it look like blood or something gross. I'm like, ooh, oh, can't deal with that. So I'm like, no, this would be the perfect first property or first lot to do here. So we now have the Modern Royal, a destination wedding destination. So basically what that means is that it's kind of a property that it's the destination wedding destination, but I also kind of playing on the redundancy of The Sims a little bit, so that's how it got its name. And so, yeah, so basically I just totally kind of flipped it upside down and turned it around, so to speak, and just kind of leveled up a lot of other pieces now that we have access to the build and buy mode object stuff, plus all the live objects and just the whole plethora of content we have access to now versus what it would have been back in I think that was made 2016, I'm wanting to say. So yeah, I basically just wanted to go and just start, kind of taking some of these really awesome ones that just haven't aged well and just kind of spruce them up for 2020. So I thought maybe that'd be a fun little challenge for people and simmers to do, as well as maybe to go and kind of look at things in a different set of eyes, as though you're looking at it now from now versus when you looked at it, and maybe did your first project or that sort of thing, and kind of go back to that, especially if you didn't finish it, because I think that's part of what's being magical, is going and doing something you're not expecting yourself to be able to do. And that no matter what, you're the person that takes ownership of something and actually goes and says, yeah, I accomplished that. That's what I see as magical. Where you don't think you can do it, but you do. And sometimes we can be our own worst enemies. And so I think by having sort of that magical touch to yourself and just saying, I'm going to take that last little bit of energy and just spend on this because I really want to accomplish it, or I really want to do it, somebody should, because I think that it's really important to set goals and, really tackle them. So that's where I think that this challenge would really come into play as well, and just kind of to go back and kind of look at things that we may not have finished and just say, hey, maybe I should, finish this finally. Because there's nothing wrong, with wanting to totally accomplish a goal. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and get going on this build. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe in the links below. And as always, go out and do something magical and stay proud. And let's go ahead and dive in now. Alrighty, so the first thing I really like to do is go through and kind of evaluate the situation when I'm coming into these types of renovation builds, because I really want to kind of bring it to the current times and to kind of rewrite the story a little bit and kind of evolve it as well. So this lot was actually sort of a design for royalty, so to speak, but now I see royalty as really kind of evolving, and that sort of mentality of what a modern royal is, so to speak, what the media calls Kate and William and Harry and Meghan and all of them, But the way I see like a lot of them is like, their trips to Africa and their really unique tastes. And then also their more like humble lifestyle, I guess you could say, compared to other royals before them. So to me, I think it's really important to kind of keep that in mind. So, they're trying to be a little more sustainable and they definitely recognize the climate change issues and that sort of thing there. So it seems so, they're actively promoting a lot of really good charities and that kind of thing. But then they're, kind of really worrying like and caring about the environment as well. It seems so. I, really thought about how, how to make a more sustainable and more modern facility to have weddings and to kind of, think about like what the modern royal would maybe have and then, how then you would kind of commercialize that concept into a wedding venue. So that's what we have here today. So what I've been doing so far is just kind of going through and placing all the new columns. Like there's a lot of things that I liked about the concept, but it had more like a beachy vibe to me, and like in a way, but then also like a really neat classical sort of design as well with some of the detail they had before. So it was just like a hodgepodge of things. And then some of them were really tacky in my opinion. Like I'm not a leopard print or zebra print or anything like that sort of kind of guy. So, I immediately was thinking about that. And then I go through and I'm like, oh, there's not a lot of privacy either. And I feel like the media, more like really the paparazzi are probably a problem for them, like it seems. So I thought about, how to make it even more private feeling for the people that want to have that sort of modern royal treatment. I see a lot of folks, like as soon as, Kate or Meghan end up wearing something or one of their children wears something, like it sells out like immediately. So I'm thinking like, this is maybe that sort of lifestyle where someone could come in and just sort of like live that way as well. Not only buy the clothes, but then kind of have that same sort of lifestyle in a way, but more like an affordable, like accessible way as well. Because I think in some ways, like some of the stuff that they do and wear and things like that is like that, or they'll wear the same thing like more than once, which used to be like frowned upon. And I'm like, that's so wasteful to like buy new clothes like every time you go outside because you're gonna be photographed. Like, oh well, everybody like can't afford that in real life. So that's kind of what I wanted to make this more. It was like more of like a, the royal flavor meets like modern times and like kind of what's really affordable, but then also to really kind of, pay homage to somebody that may want that sort of experience. It's all about eliminating hassle. So now it's actually the fun part where I'm going through all the build, buy, and like live edit objects and stuff, and I'm like kind of getting a little overwhelmed a little bit because it's like there's just a lot there. And it's like poorly organized and, and like nothing's actually like really labeled. And, they're trying to promote us and using it a little bit, when it was okay to use in the challenges. But I think they like that kind of hampers you a little bit because, you're looking for a specific like archway like I was. And then it took me forever to find it. And I just kept like kind of going back to it and thinking about it a little bit more because it was frustrating me. I'm like, this doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So it was just frustrating a little bit because, I was like looking for just an archway and, you can't just search archway because none of those objects actually are even labeled. It's just debug. So boo. So when I saw that like little fountain thing there or like the koi pond, I just was thinking like, this could be a really fun rock feature and just make it a little more like resort kind of style rather than it just being like a little pond there. And then I ended up going with like this sort of like funky lighting there in the entrance to kind of make it clear like, hey, this is like the new royal. So it's like bright and colorful, but like not expensive. Like crazy expensive. Just like, just really accessible. or accessible. So now I'm getting into all of my different flowers here. I think that that's like one of the big themes, is that, you know, that's something that doesn't, again, cost a lot of money, but really is a good showpiece, is having like really good landscaping. No matter if you're like, you know, like the poorest of the poor or the richest of the rich, like everybody likes having a nice yard, you know, or like nice, so it kind of like crosses all divides. So I went ahead and just also strung these lights up because, again, it's just like a simple yet effective solution to bring in some lighting that just wasn't so Sherlock Holmes, I guess you could call it. So now I'm just kind of going through and really paying attention to the bar, the central bar, because that's kind of the showpiece of this floor. And I'm just like, you know, this is like sad. And before, you know, we had that like really gross, like red water kind of stuff that looked more like industrial than anything to me, like it was chemicals. So I'm like, this needs to be more like homely and like wholesome feeling with like a really nice, like sort of tropical vibe a little bit, because, you know, I just was thinking about Belize, or I was thinking about, you know, the Virgin Islands, or I was thinking about some of their other areas like in Africa and different little territories that they have, and how you can kind of like play into that a little bit. And so that's kind of what I was thinking too, is just kind of represent some of the different areas within, because that's kind of seems what they do in like a lot of their ceremonies, is to kind of just give subtle nods to certain parts of their dominion or their overall like countries and territories, and just everybody that's like within their union. And then of course you have to have the modern amenities as well, you know, just the fun little things, like, you know, where you could grow your own things and garden, and, you know, kind of be able to kick back and relax if you want. And then I ended up moving this like bubble thing like later, like just kept passing it around a little bit because I just wasn't sure where I wanted it. And then when I decided to get to the cafe area here, because I thought it'd be really important to have a nice little like area for brunch and that kind of stuff, I wanted to make sure that it had different like chairs and tables, so then you knew that like this is a different defined area. And I did really like that travel rug that was there, but then I hated all those like, I just don't like them. I don't know, those like Legends of the Hidden Temple cauldron things. Like, it's just not like, that's more like in like a castle or something, and not really any sort of wedding facility in my opinion. So I 86 those. And then at that point I then was like, ooh, I could really like fix up all of my stairs and make this way better, because right now like it just didn't have a really good flow and it didn't feel really grand. And I think that's part of like their lifestyle as well, is like really appreciating modern architecture and like new stuff, because it creates jobs and like is, you know, modern ingenuity. So that's kind of what I was trying to accomplish as well with this. So then I just kind of start leaving some things that I find upstairs, because I know like I had a direction on what I wanted to do with it, because I thought of like, what else are you gonna have at like a little wedding resort theme? So I created ready rooms upstairs for the bride, and a lot of just different things to, you know, kind of serve as wedding amenities. And then I decided to go ahead and go with this central fountain here within, but I didn't want to actually do like a buried fountain and that kind of thing, because that can be really cheesy on the inside sometimes. In my opinion, I try not to, you know, hate on anyone's design ideas, but sometimes it just starts looking really goofy to me and gets a little distracting. So I really wanted to go with this like modern idea of like weaving these windows like back and forth, so that it created like a really neat like cusp design on each side. And then I just thought that all of this was like really dark space up here, and the only way to brighten it up is to add windows or overhead lighting, but there's just so much overhead lighting because of it being like the dance floor and all that kind of stuff, I ended up doing like a backdrop behind the logo of like big windows, so that was like another signature of it, so that you could see the logo from the inside and out. And then I decided to go with those like skinnier, like long windows to again kind of really create a focal point of the up and down area of the vertical height of the building, but then also to kind of not only draw your eye up, but then also to really get you to see sort of the detail that's kind of in there and around the building a little bit more, because it was really tough with like all that mess and stuff on the inside. There's just a lot of hodgepodge and things that are just much, like those velvet couches, like that just didn't make it in time like anymore. Like those are good objects if that's all you have, like 5 years ago, but now it's like kind of so passe to have that sort of kind of stuff. And I don't see like the royals like running to get that sort of chair, because like grandma already has that chair. So I was just like, let's like kind of really switch this up and make it what I think that they would maybe think about, like, or consider, and then how that would then be marketed to like the regular normal people. So now I'm just kind of going through and getting rid of like everything pretty much in this level, because it was all just kind of like Vegas. Like it reminded me of Las Vegas or something, and I was just like, this is not really the style that I would do like today, like now, and certainly not as a royal sort of like venue. So I immediately started thinking of other uses for all of this space. And so I decided to go ahead and make like this ready room. So there's like, you come right off the hallway and you can either turn and go to like the amenity space for like your reception, or you can actually go over there and get ready and access that from the hallway. So it immediately started brightening up the hallway as soon as I started changing the wallpaper, because that wallpaper was just like eating the light. And bringing in all these windows really helped a lot too, because it was so dark. And I mean, it wasn't a castle, so like if it was just a castle, maybe, but like again, it's like all about creating that really beautiful beauty shot. And then they I think this must have been around the time that our first or second, I guess, expansion pack came out, the city living pack, because there's just a lot of that city living kind of stuff in this. And generally, like, I will, if it's like old, like a year or two, like I would go back and kind of, add expansion pack stuff to it. But then over time, we just got a lot of content. So I didn't do that anymore necessarily. I just started making things brand new, or like taking more modern things and just kind of updating those, because I wanted to have more like bones to work with. But this, I pretty much just kind of like stripped it down to the studs and started over with a lot of it, because it was just, a lot of dated stuff. Like looking at a 90s house, like there's just so many of those houses now that like, oh yeah, this is great. Paint everything hunter green. Put up all this paneling. Just a lot of like really funky stuff. Let's do the particle plaster ceilings and all that kind of thing. So now I'm going through and doing the first lady's room over here, and then I have one that I'm doing then on the other side for the guys. And so I just totally started over with all that, because that was before we even had like bathroom stalls and that kind of thing. And those are just super, like, they really gobble up a lot of your energy and a lot of like your lighting and everything like that around. So it's kind of tricky. All right, so now it's just kind of panning around and showing you guys some of the different things here and all of the sort of designs and areas around this level. and just kind of like the way that the piece kind of came together a little bit with the landscaping. So it's kind of showing up on the landscaping now here, kind of just all around a little bit on the different tree textures. And so I was doing different sizes here, like of heights that go from like short to lower to medium to kind of shorter, just to kind of create a really good sort of transition between all of it, so you could just kind of see all of it and it wasn't just one big clump. So that's kind of going on here. Let's see here. So then it's going to move on to up here in so the bar up here, I did quite a bit to it. I actually went through and just started taking off some of the rugs and kind of flipping the rugs and stuff and changing them. And then I go over here to the side and add in a lot of stuff, you know, and just kind of all the tables and things like that. But then the men's room, that's when I was like, oh, okay, now the men's room, I really got to work on this because it's just a hot mess. This thing is a hot mess. And I was like, no, we've got to do a lot more to this. And then, so I decided to go ahead and work on rugs and move into the bar a little bit more and get the bar more like straightened up, because it just felt like it needed quite a bit of help. And so then I'm coming here to the side, and what I did, I created this sort of like giant marquee sign thing on the side of the building so that it can have some branding and that kind of thing on it, and to kind of let it have that sort of like, you know, commercial design idea too. So that's what you're seeing in the top right. Now I'm just putting the crown on that to say, hey, this is our sign. And we're about ready to go up there to the top upper level in a moment, and you'll see me kind of go through and get that taken care of. Cool. So now I'm going through and doing the men's room and getting that taken care of, and just swapping out all of the things and all the junk. And then here's the lighting going in as well. So it's doing live on stream, so it only like captured like portions of it, but it didn't actually like it was really silly like how I recorded my stream and didn't get all of it. It was like bits and chunks here and there, so it was like this like really odd sort of like photo montage of like my build and some of it, but then it will start speeding up here in a minute again. And going back to normal, but right now I'm just sort of like using like a really small frames per second. So there's like it's only capturing a few things here at a time from the stream. That's what happened. So because I wanted to kind of like get this one done ahead of time and get started on the series, so I wanted to go ahead and get this first one done. So I was doing it on stream because generally I'll keep like a lot of my stream content separate from my YouTube channel, but this one I tried to cross it over, and then of course like it ends up like acting really goofy and only giving me like so many frames per second in the recording, and so I was like, I don't want to rebuild this all over again, so we'll just go ahead and kind of roll with this little slideshow sort of thing for a minute. So it's kind of chugging along here. Now I'm getting in like all of the sort of hairstyle area and just getting all of its different things put together for like the ready room and getting that done. Okay, cool. So now we're back. And now I'm getting the roof up here done, and I really like the roof. Like, I think that it's a really fun, neat feature, but the problem is I felt like it was a really good design, nor was it really that private. And I like the idea of having the words here and stuff because I feel like that again gets sort of that commercial design and idea. Um, so now I'm just kind of going around and looking at it. And I updated these, like the railing around it, and then also these like little signage things here to make them less like funky too, because everything was just like over the top, like flashy gold, and like no one wears that or really buys that much anymore. So I thought it'd be really good to kind of make that another piece. Okay, so then I'm like, what is this? And it was like some like mineral thing, like a rock or something, like that you could refine down, or a chemical. It was like something like that. I was like, ooh, I'm not gonna mess with that. So now it's coming over here, and I'm like going through my stuff and looking and thinking about like, how are we gonna design this? How is this gonna come together? So I get in like even more of those tables, and then I pop in the awning. That took a moment to find. So I ended up like cropping out some of that out of the video because I'm like, that's just so boring to sit there and go through like tons of the content all like over and over and over. So I, did that, and now it's coming over here to the little flower patch archway that we've got. So that's in, and now I'm just getting in. I thought, why not have a quartet? So now we have speakers for 4, and now I'm just getting ready to get in our chairs. So in a moment, you're going to start seeing a lot of the other content fill in, because I really wanted to load it up a lot more and make it where it's like just way more comfortable and really just a really neat, like fun experience for like everybody to really enjoy. And then here on the left side, you can see how the crown comes all the way to the top. And then we have over on the right, you can kind of see down over here, there's something cool and that kind of stuff. So now I have the exterior set up. So now we've got like her side, his side, or his side, his side, her side, her side, however you want to do it. And I kind of created this like linear pattern here so that they all come together. So now it's all set up and sort of ready. And now this is what it looks like in the evening time. And then here's down, down, down. So you can just see it all around. Back up. So this is the Modern Royal Wedding venue, or the Modern Royal Wedding destination. Thanks again so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great day. Go out and do something magical. Stay proud.